This is the European edition of Breaking Banks,
the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show.
I am Matteo Rizzi.
I am Elizabeth Kleinfeld.
I am Don Ginsel.
And together we bring you the unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving financial services sector today.
A truly globalized show with some of the world's most well-known thought leaders and new voices in the fintech sector and beyond.
Join us every month as we explore what makes Europe a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing players in the world today.
Okay, let's roll.
Hey guys, welcome back to Breaking Banks Europe. This is the first episode of 2026, another year with us. It is also episode number 273. Yes, you heard it correctly. I am Matteo Rizzi, the executive producer of the show, and I'm here with my longtime friend Rodrigo Garcia de la Cruz, president and founding member of the Global Fintech Alliance. Rodrigo, bienvenido.
Muchas gracias, and thank you very much for this for the invitation. The best way to start in the year is with this first episode of the 2026. So thank you very much.
Rodri, you and I go way back together, but just share with our audience, your story. You not only have one title, I saw you with at least 2 or 3 different, and we even worked together in the past. So please tell us your story.
Yeah. So I've been related with the fintech industry from long time. In fact, I was one of the founders and the president of the Spanish Fintech and Insurtech Association. 1 year later, I was the first president and founder of the Ibero-American Fintech Alliance. 2 years later, I was one of the founders of the European Association, the European Digital Finance Association. And 2 years ago, I decided to connect all the Fintech National Fintech Association, not only from Europe and Latin America, but also from Africa, Asia, and other regions like MENA, to create this Global Fintech Alliance. This is more institutional role, but I also have Finnovating, that is a matchmaking B2B fintech and insurtech platform. Also, I have other roles like investing in fintechs, and I launched 3 different masters in fintech and insurtech here in Spain in different schools. So I've been, connecting and doing a lot of things in this amazing world of fintechs and digital banks.
Actually, before we start sort of discussing a little bit of what happened in the past couple of weeks in the fintech world, I actually want to ask you a question, like a more generic, is not really a question, but is like a sharing your view on building ecosystems, right? Because that's something that you have been doing for the past, I want to say 20 years-ish, more or less. Fintech is, I want to say roughly 15 years old, the way that everybody is, thinking of it. Back then it was way more complicated. And you have this very particular experience in truly have seen ecosystems from Latin America to Africa, to Asia, to Middle East, to Europe. It's is this like a trend, or is the way you develop an ecosystem changed? And I'm just curious about if like 2 or 3 lessons that you learned.
For me, ecosystems is probably the most difficult thing to do. As you also know, Matteo, we have been fighting in this world a lot of time, and it's quite complex. But on the other side, the most important thing, because every single company, even in their own markets, they need to connect with the stakeholders for regulation, for investment, for talent, for everything. However, if you want to go outside of your natural or your national country, you need more and more to connect with ecosystems. This is why it's so important. And if we see how the fintech has been evolve, we see that most of the companies and most of the fintechs needs to go out, needs to grow abroad. So this is why ecosystems are so important.
Actually, it's funny because the first thing I wanted to ask to share with the audience is actually this news that I believe it's like from the past week that Nubank just got a banking license in the US. And it's super interesting because it took I don't know 120 something days, which is still like 4 months, but for a regulator is like a snap of a finger. And at the same time, it looks like Nubank, a Brazilian bank, succeeded where a bunch of others failed. Monzo, Revolut. They haven't failed maybe, but they certainly they're still in process. Some of them, like the number 26, purely gave up. And for another, it's been a challenge. Why do you think? Is because the new bank is really like too big to be ignored, or we are speculating a bit, but for the sake of it?
Yeah, so the Nubank is an amazing case I think worldwide. Probably some of the people that are listening this breaking news, they don't know about it, but they are like the Revolut in Latin America. They are huge, and now they have, for example, the value of the third Spanish bank in terms of the market. So that's something that we have to take care about it. And probably, as you mentioned, they are too big. They have a very good fund because they are public. And it's really, really interesting, 121 days. Sometimes in Europe it's 121 months, to get the license. So that's amazing. We have to if we see, the piece of news, we see that is a conditional approval, meaning that they must satisfy operational and regulation conditions in terms of risk management, compliance, and leadership team. However, I think it's a very good, a piece of news in terms of we are here and we are also open now to give a license and bank charter for other big neobanks.
Neobanks, yeah. Actually, Rodrigo, something that is interesting, and maybe our audience they don't know it or they haven't realized. Nubank invested as well in Time Bank. So Time Bank is an African neobank based out of South Africa, but also could be very strong presence out of Singapore. Actually, headquartered in Singapore, but super strong presence in South Africa. And of course, expanding very, very quickly. I had the honor to speak with one of the co-founders at the last Singapore Fintech Festival. So it is, talking about expanding a presence in different ecosystems. Here we have, a Brazilian specialist in financial inclusion with a lead that is basically super well placed to play a great role in a global South, Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia. And the reason why, in my super humble opinion, they got a US license is because the dollar is very often still the currency of exchange, So they say, and if I had to bet some money, and this is actually a great segue for our next news I want to discuss, stablecoin is going to be their next move. Because, it's these guys are so fast. They understand emerging markets. They understand like the multiple currencies. So I suspect that could be a good next move. What do you think?
Yeah, and 100% aligned with you. The thing is, it's very curious to understand how Nubank goes to the States when they are the financial inclusion leaders. Why you are going to be to a mature market? Why maybe you can go? Obviously, they are in Mexico, but you can go to Africa. You can go to Asia. Why you are going to go one of the most mature markets in the world, that is the United States? But I think, the investors that they put a real, a big amount of money, they are thinking about, we are going to create the unique digital bank in the States, because they put the money from the States. So that's the first reason. And the second reason is what you mentioned. We are going to use the dollar. We are used to, and we are going to also leverage in the stable coins for sure. 100% aligned.
And actually is a good segue for, as I was saying, for the next views I want to discuss. and is the fact that the Cross River Bank, which is a U.S. I would call it infrastructure bank. So it's, of course, it's fully licensed, but it was built to serve the fintechs. And actually, interesting enough, the CEO and the founder of Cross River Bank is a guy called Gilles Gade. I know him for probably, I don't know, 15 years. He was, I still remember he went to Cybos, the Swift event to speak. I think he was in my panel and we connected. And today they are launching a stablecoin infrastructure so that the Cross River clients, they can use it to actually move money, from on-chain, off-chain. And, here is, I'm actually surprised that more banks haven't done it yet. Of course, is not that simple, but if one bank does it, they actually reunite two essential components of this business, which is the liquidity and the rails. Usually all these like African startups, for example, that launch, a stablecoin payment business, they just build with the rails, and then they work, to have a bunch of liquidity pools to be able to, afford the stablecoin to fiat, in the, as the last meter, right? But if a bank does it, oh my God, they have one-stop shop. And I mean, this is not Europe, but I suspect that if this works, once a lot of banks will follow, and second, they will have repercussions, on the business outside of the US, because we all know that stablecoin enables transaction where currency is a critical factor, right?
Absolutely. I think you mentioned that there is going to be a mirror in Europe. Absolutely. Always there is a case, or there is the first leader that is launching a new initiative, and the rest are going to go through this initiative. For me, I think that the big shift is that they move from a crypto product to a banking structure, as you mentioned before. That's for me the critic success. The key point is that they are doing the hard part, because embedding on-chain payments into a banking core is, for me, it's more important. But if you are doing it with a real compliance and operational controls, that's the most important thing. On the other side, we have to see, and I encourage all the members of this channel that we let's look for the use cases that are going to scale first. If there are going to be remittances, if there are going to be B2B cross borders, if they're going to be using payout platforms. So because we once you have the infrastructure, you need to look for what is going to be the first product. On the other side, we have also to because probably the European banks, the regulated, the European banks and financial industry they are going to see the risk to be managed, the custody, the anti-money laundering, the counterpart risks, etc. All the risks management is going to be followed by the European guys.
Actually, just before this episode, I just, I sent a WhatsApp to Gilles, and we will tag him, on this episode. Let's see if we can invite him to talk a little bit about this infrastructure. And I also checked that there is the head of crypto is a fellow Italian guy from Rome, and I also connected him on LinkedIn. So let's see how this evolves. Rodrigo, let's switch to Europe. At the end of the day, we're still in Breaking Banks Europe here, and there is a piece of, it's not really news, it's a piece of data which is interesting, and is comparing the funding going to the French and the German ecosystem last year, which is roughly kind of the same, like in the region of a couple of billion. I want to say 2.3 2.4 and 2.6. But the numbers are not important. What's important is where did this money go? So in France, it was more like a very big rounds, so it was like a much more seldomly sort of distributed. And in Germany, it was more like spread into multiple startups, as if, as a witness of the resilience, of a higher resilience of the market. German fintech has never been, number 26, great. Solaris Bank back in the days, I believe that if you remember, the name escapes me, but the founder of Solaris Bank, Rocket Internet, is right. Was it Rocket Internet? So it was they were innovative in a way of building startup differently, and Feeder Bank, our friend, Matthias, and actually Matthias is probably one of the biggest innovator, and hey Matthias, I know you're listening to this, and he's also a fellow podcaster here at Breaking Banks Europe. But then France, very different, huge unicorns. So you might actually have a little bit of an insight, in between these two different ecosystems, and maybe there are others you want to mention.
Yeah, that's complicated to compare, France and Germans. But I think it's a question of culture, a question of targets. I have a very good relationship with the guys from the fintech guys from the both countries. But there is something interesting in France. The president of France wanted to have 30 unicorns, fintech unicorns, before 2030.
I didn't know that. Okay, interesting.
So they really have a strategy to have unicorns. So, and when the president of a nation is going to say that, and France is really good connected and protected, and you are launching an advice and a call to the rest of the ecosystem.
It's like you're launching a trend, right? The unicorns trend.
Yeah, the unicorns trend. So they are putting the focus on the unicorns, and there is a rate. We can have different rates and different. That is a very good way to understand this, because it's a culture. For me, it's a question of we have to manage the unicorns, the fintech unicorns in Europe. So this is why, and obviously maybe the way of the finance in France are more agile, more competing, more looking for crowded markets, more even B2C, or B2B or B2B2B. But at the end there are a huge market. On the other side, we see, the Germans are more, as you mentioned, resilient, building hard tech with long cycles, more focus on validation, more focus on. So this is why they are more spread in the industry, and obviously probably the Germans are more, how can I say, relaxed.
Oh yeah, okay. I wanted to say consistent in a sense.
Consistent, that was the word. Thank you, Matteo. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I propose you to invite Matthias and me to another, three.
But let's do the comeback of the Titans or something, right? Or an OG's meeting. Why not?
Yes.
It's funny. It could be funny. Listen, I think that Revolut is actually doing a great job recently, because it is hard to make a podcast on fintech news without mentioning anything that happens on Revolut, because they are actually coming out almost every month, if not twice a month, with the news that it actually makes a difference. It makes a difference. And I have a story behind the news I'm about to share, which is the fact that Revolut just got the license in Mexico, which is a country that you know super well, by the way. And you know what's funny? Is that the CEO of Revolut Mexico is, I think, is Luis Guerra Davila. I'm pretty sure it's Luis Guerra, and I don't want to edit it. I am sure about Guerra. I'm not super sure about the first name, but hey, hermanito, you will know that I'm talking about you because he actually came to InnoTribe almost 15 years ago with his own startup that was, I believe, was dealing with student loans back then. And all of a sudden, almost 10 years later, I saw him as a CEO of Revolut Mexico. And now the news came out that they got a license. Now, it's not as, how do you say it? Maybe it doesn't have the same financial weight than Nubank getting a license in the US. But hey, Revolut getting a license in Mexico, opening up to all Latin America. What do you think?
Yeah, that's I didn't want to mention before because we were talking about Nubank, but there is like a competition between these two guys that is going to be followed by the rest of the second tier neobanks, because we see Nubank going to the north, from Brazil to the north, but when is going to jump to Europe? Probably very, 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 very soon. Why? Because Revolut is going to the Latin market. So if Revolut takes the decision to go to Mexico, that is the second market in Latin America, this is not the war, because this is not the war. This is open markets, but this is the real competition, yeah, not between the neobanks and the banks. This is the competition between the own neobanks, and that's amazing. Last week I was in Colombia, and most of the people there, they don't know Revolut.
Wow.
These are not Revolut, because in Europe it's like, oh, Revolut, I have my tattoo of Revolut. No.
Yes.
So but they are going to go there, and they are going to do it really, really well. And the most amazing thing is, let's follow the both big guys in Europe and Latin America competing in the first market, that is going to be Mexico. Both are going to be competing in the same market for the first time, and we will see who is going to grow more, because both has amazing customer experience, amazing products, probably the best in the world. So we will see who is going to be the winner between the top guys. This is like Sinner and Alcaraz. Here talking about the Spanish and Italian, we are talking about, the two big guys, Nubank and Revolut. So let's enjoy the trip, and let's enjoy, the match.
Actually, is Juan Miguel Guerra Davila. I was right about the family names, not about the first name. But now, Juan Miguel, I really wish you the best of luck. And actually, Rodrigo, do you think, or do you see Revolut targeting also, because Mexico is, I want to say, is overseeing Latin America, okay, but is not native Latin America, fintech wise, right? So the market is, beside Brazil and Argentina, of course, probably, Colombia would be the immediate next one. And also in terms of innovation, you see Revolut getting a license in Colombia or in more Latin American countries?
Absolutely. If you go to Mexico, once you have, the base in Mexico, you should go to the rest of the regions. Maybe not a smaller country, but once you are there, it's a new bank starting in Brazil, then go to Argentina, because it's very close. Then they go to Colombia, to Brazil, to Mexico, and jumped into the States. And why not Revolut go through, Mexico to go through the rest of the North America and the South or Central America? So that's a very good decision to go to Mexico. More than 120 million population, growing a lot, big margins, very connected with the euro. With the dollar. That's the moment to do it.
Especially because then I haven't into which type of license they are going to have, but I'm actually a very happy ultra customer of Revolut, and the way they manage their even the different assets, you can do anything in the app. So
Yeah.
if they are copy pasting the European one into Mexico, they not only get let's say the digital clients, but also the mass affluents, right? So the ones that, and of course, maybe not with 1 0 less, because it is more 100K here, the mass affluent threshold. Maybe it's going to be a little bit less in Mexico for the mass of population, but today I don't believe that even like financial literacy when it comes to investment is super popular, right? In Mexico, and someone like Revolut can definitely play a role, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, last week in Colombia, during that dinner, talking with a CEO of a very important company, we were talking about neobanks, and I say, "Oh, Revolut, it's amazing what he's doing in Europe." Ah, that's yes. And I saw him. I opened my app. I saw him. The different solutions and products. And I say, "Oh my God, the experience is amazing. The products that the Revolut has." Are really good. So I saw in the face, of a very important CEO, the customer experience of Revolut. That this is a very good testing, because we are testing in how can I say, in a B2C market, because as you know, Africa, Asia, and the Latam, they are B2C big markets. So you are competing with a very important guys. It's not the Europe about more about B2B, So that was very good to see, that they are going to have this good experience and this good success.
Rodrigo, before we wrap up, I would like you to share some wisdom on a matter that is, I believe is very high in the agenda of every single ecosystem, and I am taking the opportunity of the fact that we have you on the podcast to share some tips on how do you make a fintech association sort of sustainable, right? Because there is a reason why I'm asking, right? So I'm on a board of the Africa Fintech Network, which is this association of the fintech associations in Africa, and it is a very solid, very popular, very fast growing, very prestigious, very trustable network. But of course, especially in frontier market, the challenge is always, how do we grow? How do we pay the people that work on it? How do we make sure that the value of these associations is actually perceived by the market? What did you learn in doing it in so different part of the of the planet? And maybe I'll take it. We'll tag our friends, Patrick Conte and Dr. Shegun, of Africa Fintech Network, and I send my regards as well.
Yeah, my regards too. And they are also part of the Global Fintech Alliance founder members. So we can have 1 hour of conversation and discussion about the fintech associations. But I think if you want to be sustainable, you need to give value to your members. And it's very important to decide which members you are going to see. I have dozens of anecdotes of good and bad associations from Latam to Asia, all kind, because you put banks and the banks go against the fintech. You only put, a bit small startups and you have representation. You only put big guys and you at the end you are a lobby association, or you do it for free and you try to get money from doing just events. So there are huge amount of different cases, but I think the most sustainable one is having the representation of the national country of your country to be the national fintech, and connected with the transversal guys, that can help you, and say regulate. Legal firms that can help you. Some consulting firms, some B2B banks that can give you also other businesses, and this is very important, and also. And you can do different initiatives. But if you put the focus only on doing events to get money at the end you are going to work for the sponsors, and you are going to also lose your neutrality. So that's complicated. my experience, give value to your members, because something that I see from the Global Fintech Alliance is every day the regulation is going to be more important for the businesses, and we have to manage, because the regulation can end with your business, or you can or it's going to be very difficult to jump to another regions. So that's something that we are going to take care of this year in the Global Fintech Alliance, to have a standard rules worldwide, easy rules, and something that is also very important is give the competition open. We need to give the fintechs to compete in the same and equality conditions that and the rest of the members of the industry, and also the proportionality. That's very important. So when the fintech associations are going to defend this, you are going to be, how I say, indispensable for your members, and you are going to get, the member fees and etc. People are going to be with you. That's the way. Not to less, to put the focus on other businesses, side businesses, because at the end you are going to lose your
mission, your core mission, your core value. Okay. Rodrigo, thanks so much for sharing your experience. It was really fun and very sort of cool to have this conversation. We are going to invite you more in more occasions, certainly with some of our common friends. And but for now, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matteo. Happy to see you not only in Breaking Banks, but also always physically in different events in every single corner in the world.
Absolutely. We've been meeting in different corners of the world last year, and I hope we will continue. Guys, episode 273. This is a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Breaking Banks Europe,
a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with timepledge.org.
Don't forget to shout us out on your favorite streaming platform, any social media channels, Medium, or YouTube at Breaking Banks Europe.
If there is something or someone you'd like to hear in our cast, let us know.
See you next month on Breaking Banks Europe.